What if I told you there was a rule book for, well, everything? Not just for the big, heavy life questions, but for everything. How you should eat, how you should laugh, even what color your clothes should be. You'd probably think that's some kind of modern life hacking thing, right? But what if I told you this guide was written almost 2,000 years ago?
I mean, think about it. These sound like tiny, everyday decisions, don't they? But what if they weren't? What if every single one was part of a grand, divine plan? What if there was a right and a wrong way to do literally everything? Well, back in the 2nd century, there was this Christian thinker, Clement of Alexandria, and he had an answer for all of it. He wrote this incredible guide called the Paedagogus, which basically means the instructor. You got to think of him less like some stuffy old philosopher and more like an ancient divine life coach who had a very strong opinion on every single part of your day.
Okay, so who was this all-knowing instructor? Well, for Clement, it wasn't a person. It wasn't even him. Nope, it was something much, much bigger. A kind of universal force that was meant to guide all of humanity.
He called this force the Logos. Now for Clement, the Logos was a huge deal. It was divine reason itself, and it was also Christ. It was the ultimate teacher, the source of all truth, and the blueprint for how to live a perfectly harmonious life. And here's the kicker. Every single rule we're about to get into, it all comes back to this one powerful idea.
So, you might be wondering, how does this grand idea of Logos turn into actual, practical rules for living? Well, it all comes down to one fundamental conflict. And this is the key to his entire worldview. It's like a tale of two forces. On one side, you've got physis, which is just nature, God's perfect, flawless creation. The idea is, if you want to follow the Logos, you've got to follow nature. Simple. But on the other side, you have techne. That's all the human stuff. Art, craft, technology, ingenuity. And for Clement, this was a total corruption, a deviation from God's plan that needed to be rejected, like all the time.
He even said that art is a counter-molding of what God has already made perfect. I mean, he saw it as a massive act of arrogance against the Creator. So you see, this wasn't just him being picky. This was the core principle that was about to dictate some very, very specific rules for everything from your closet to your dinner plate.
All right, so with that whole nature versus artifice thing in our back pocket, let's dive into the practical stuff. Clement's Paedagogus lays out this incredibly strict guide to simple living. And trust me, some of these rules are going to make you raise an eyebrow.
First up, what's on the menu? For Clement, food was just for fuel, not for fun. That meant simple, natural stuff like seeds and veggies. He was totally against those over-the-top banquets the Roman elite loved. And to drink? Water. That was the perfect sober choice. Now wine was okay, but you had to use it in moderation, almost like it was medicine. And wanting some fancy imported wine? Nope, that was just rejecting the simple, natural stuff God put right in front of you.
And what about how you look?
Oh yeah, the rules for that were just as strict. Clothes had to be simple and plain white. Why? Because colorful dyes were seen as artificial, even deceptive. For men, no shaving. Your beard was a natural sign of masculinity from God. And for women, forget about makeup, hair dye, or fancy jewelry. All of that was techne, just an arrogant attempt to improve on God's creation. For Clement, real beauty was a healthy body and a good soul, not a tube of lipstick.
You see, even the stuff you owned said something about your soul. The big idea here was utility over luxury. A simple dish, that's for eating, but a gold cup, that's just for showing off. A plain bed is for sleeping, but a bed with all these fancy carvings is just vanity. Frugality was the name of the game. Having tons of servants or luxury furniture was just a distraction from the Logos.
And get this, Clement's rules even covered how you're supposed to laugh. Seriously, he believed a wise person just smiles calmly. A big, loud belly laugh? Nah, that was for the foolish and arrogant. Every single thing you did, right down to your smile, was supposed to reflect a calm, ordered soul that was in tune with divine reason.
Okay, so you're probably thinking, why? Why all these intense rules? Was it just about being disciplined just because? Absolutely not. For Clement, all of this was the actual path to the ultimate goal, salvation. So you gotta understand, this whole system wasn't meant to be some kind of punishment. Think of it more like a complete training program, designed to get your body and your soul into perfect harmony. The idea was, by controlling all your physical actions, what you eat, what you wear, what you do, You could actually purify your soul and open it up to the teachings of the Logos.
And Clement laid out this path to salvation super clearly. It kind of goes like this. First, ignorance is what leads to sin. You just don't know any better. Second, the Logos, our divine instructor, comes in and gives you the knowledge you need. He called this moment of understanding and illumination, and for him, this was tied to baptism. And finally, that divine light, that illumination, is what leads you to salvation. It's a process.
And this right here is the main takeaway. For Clement, just believing in something, that wasn't going to cut it, not even close. Salvation was an active thing. You had to actually put the knowledge from the Logos into practice every single day, with every single choice you made. Your salvation was literally being built by how you lived.
Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds, well, pretty ancient and maybe a little extreme, right? But here's the thing. If you strip away all the second-century details, the core questions Clement was wrestling with are, believe it or not, surprisingly modern.
Clement's entire world was this huge battle between what was natural and what was artificial, between what was God-given and what was man-made. Back then, his fight was against things like colorful clothes and fancy imported wines.
But let's bring that fight to today. What about our world? An age of social media filters that change how we look, AI that can create art out of thin air, and virtual realities that build entire worlds from scratch.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Clement's central question is more relevant than ever. In the middle of all this, what would he say is real?